This game is still alive, but only just. Kohli goes down the ground. Kohli goes out of the ground. What a twist! Are we seeing a cricket match or what? There he goes! That's the biggest of them all.
Like Ashwin has his football stories, I've got a small story about MS Dhoni and the post-match presentations that a lot of you seem to enjoy so much. But to put that in context, I must go right to the beginning. I don't know MS Dhoni very well. I've only ever once had a meal with him. I think it's well documented. And we had a lovely informal conversation. And I thought at the point, hang on, once you get to know him, then there's a very different person that emerges. But I'd never met him socially thereafter. So it ended there. Now, when the IPL rosters are made, and it's not easy to make those because there's so many variables to consider, I always looked at, when I first got it, okay, which teams am I getting games of, which cities am I in, what's the travel like, you look at things like that. But I must confess, for the last 4 years or so, every time I get my roster, I've been looking at how many CSK games have I got. And while I'm never biased, while I never hope for a particular result in the IPL, once the game starts to come towards the end, if Chennai are winning, if CSK are winning, and that happens a few times, then the mind starts to go, what do I ask MS? Because now the expectations are so high. You know, it started, I think it started in a game in Mumbai once. And I was doing the presentation. MS came along, as usually, pocketed the marker pen. He came along. And I found that he was in a very good mood. He was chatty, and you know how it is. Because he's so reticent, doesn't talk to the media so much. One question led to another, led to another, led to another. And normally, when the presentation starts to get too long, you hear a voice in your ear, the producer telling you, okay, last question. If you keep going and say, last question. So I kept waiting, and it didn't come. So I kept it going a little bit longer. My instinct told me it was going okay. And then when I finished, I went straight back and I asked the producer, how long was it? And he smiled at me and said, very long. I said, but sorry, but maybe I didn't hear you in my ear. He said, no, it was fine. So keep going. But the response to that post-match presentation just went through the roof. Everybody wanted to know what MS was saying and how he was saying. And so it sort of became a pattern, and I started enjoying doing those post-match presentations. And then I think it was after the final in the UAE. There's a big buzz about the fact that Dhoni coming to the end, he may not come back next year. He'd never make a big grandstanding announcement anyways. You know, the feeling was maybe he's not coming back next year. And so I said, you can be very proud of the legacy that you left behind at Chennai Super Kings. And that's when he stopped and said, but I didn't say I have left behind. And in my mind, I'm thinking, wow, everyone's reacting to that. That one line, I think, sort of defined those post-match presentations. And then he got really chatty. It was good fun going. When it came down to 2023, this was the really interesting one. With MS, you never see emotion. He treats, as we say, those two imposters, victory and defeat, the same. You never get any great joy or great disappointment from him. But I sensed there's a little bit of emotion around MS now. And so if you remember when he comes into that post-match presentation, I don't ask him a leading question. I'm sort of egging him on. And that is when he says, so you want me to give you the quote. And then he started talking about emotion, about the water in his eyes. That was his line. And about how when he first came to Ahmedabad, he was taken in by the love. It reminded me of something I asked him long back. I said, what does Dhoni of Chennai mean to you? And that was the first time, I'll make a little correction. That was the first time I had seen emotion from him. And he talked about how when he came to Chennai, it was like a home away from home. He didn't know too many things about it. And how deeply emotional and thankful he was for the response he had got there. But this day in Chennai, he just went on, and I started to say, no, it's a post-match presentation. It's post-tournament presentation. Everyone's waiting. How long do I go? And the cheers were ringing around the ground. And you know, when you're doing a post-match with them, and sometimes you don't always hear what he's saying because of the crowd participates wherever they can hear. They respond to it. And you know, after a while, you get peripheral vision. From peripheral vision, I can almost see a queue forming there. Young people waiting to grab MS after he finishes his post-match presentation. So one day I actually just waited after the presentation was over, and one after the other, it was almost like there were 5 or 6 people waiting to grab him and have a conversation. And he sat and he waited with everybody there. So I'm going to miss that. I'm going to miss those post-match conferences. Maybe he'll give me one final interview somewhere and we'll chat about it. So, and maybe then I can say I know him a little better. I think what I've got one photograph with him. I took a selfie with him. Might have been in Australia or the UAE somewhere. That's the only photograph I have with him. Many years ago in 2007, we were in Johannesburg, and I said, I'd love to get to know you better, and I hardly know you. And he said, no problem. Here's my number. And I was telling someone over dinner, it's interesting. He's given me his number. Maybe I'll message him. And they all had a laugh. They said, try. Dhoni, very private, and that's why the press conferences are so interesting. But I have enjoyed doing those. I don't know if there's another, but if there isn't, I still enjoy doing them. So thank you for watching, and do subscribe to this channel.